For years, the question lingered, whispered in interviews, splashed across tabloids, dissected by millions of fans. What's really going on between Sam Heughan and Caitriona Balfe? For nearly a decade, Sam had dodged the rumors with charm and grace. He'd laugh, flash that easy smile, and say something diplomatic like, "We're just great friends." But this time was different. Sitting before a live studio audience during a promotional interview, the host leaned forward and asked, "Sam, after all these years, can you finally tell us the truth about you and Caitriona?" Sam paused, not the kind of pause for dramatic effect, but the kind that comes when words carry weight. He smiled faintly, his eyes thoughtful. "After all these years," he said quietly, "maybe it's time to talk." The room fell silent. From the moment Outlander premiered, their chemistry had been undeniable. The way they looked at each other, the tenderness between takes, it all felt too real. Fans across the world became convinced the love story of Jamie and Claire had slipped beyond the screen. Sam Cat became a global phenomenon, with fan pages, theories, and photos dissected down to every glance. For Sam, what began as admiration soon turned suffocating. Every smile, every look, every word was turned into something it wasn't, he once said. Reporters asked more about Caitriona than about his own projects. Headlines blurred fiction and reality until even a casual gesture became evidence. Behind the glamour, there was exhaustion. Caitriona, graceful as ever, tried to ignore it, but sometimes late at night after long shoots, the weight showed. Sam remembered one night in particular, early in the show's run. They had just finished an emotional scene that left them both raw. She sat quietly on the edge of the set, tears in her eyes. "It's too much sometimes," she whispered. "I just want people to see the work, not us." Sam had no words. He simply sat beside her in silence. In that moment, he realized their friendship wasn't just built on laughter, but on shared burden. Over time, the noise grew louder. The press speculated about secret romances and hidden rendezvous. And when Caitriona married in 2019, the internet exploded. Fans demanded explanations. Some even accused her of betrayal. Sam said nothing. That was the hardest part. Watching someone you care about being attacked for something that was never real, he admitted softly during the interview. "I could have spoken out. I could have denied it all. But I didn't. I made her a promise." He gestured toward the cameras, the tabloids, the endless online noise. "I told her I'd never let this come between us. That whatever happened, I'd protect her from it." The host leaned in. "And did you?" Sam looked down before answering. "I tried, but the thing about silence is, people mistake it for guilt. They think if you don't explain yourself, you must be hiding something. But sometimes silence is just." He hesitated, searching kindness. The room stayed hushed. The man who had spent years avoiding the question was finally showing the pain behind his restraint. "Caitriona is one of the most extraordinary people I've ever met," he continued. "We went through things no one will ever understand. The early years of Outlander were intense. We were young, overwhelmed, suddenly part of something much bigger than us. Through all of it, she was my anchor." His words carried no bitterness, only warmth. The kind of affection that lingers long after love stories fade. The interviewer hesitated. "So, was there ever something more?" Sam exhaled, unreadable. "There was something," he said at last. "But not what people think." He didn't elaborate. Instead, he smiled. That quiet, bittersweet smile fans knew too well. "Maybe someday I'll tell you about it. But for now, I'll just say this. Caitriona will always mean more to me than anyone will ever understand." He looked away, as if lost in a memory only he could see. The clip went viral within hours. Fans called it a confession, a revelation, a farewell. But no one realized his story wasn't finished. Because behind that tender admission was a promise, one he had kept all this time. A week later, Sam appeared again, not on a talk show, but at a small charity event in Glasgow. There were no flashing lights, just a quiet audience and a man finally at peace. When a journalist gently brought up the viral clip, "You said there was something between you and Caitriona. What did you mean? Sam didn't deflect. He folded his hands, took a slow breath. People think love only means romance, he said. But sometimes it's something else entirely, something quieter, something that doesn't need to be claimed. He paused. Caitriona and I shared a journey that changed both of us. We met as strangers, grew through chaos, and built something real: trust, respect, and care. That's not rumor, that's truth. The room was still, every word hung in the air. The hardest part wasn't the lies, Sam went on. It was watching how people's fantasies tried to rewrite our reality. They wanted us to be their dream couple, not two people with real lives and choices. But I loved her, not in the way they imagined, but in a way that still matters deeply. He glanced toward the audience, his eyes glassy. When she got married, I was happy for her, truly. But I also knew something had ended. Not because of fame or distance, but because life moves on. And sometimes the best way to love someone is to let them go and wish them peace. That line, the best way to love someone is to let them go, swept across the internet within hours. Fans shared it with heartbreak emojis, calling it one of his most emotional moments ever. But his words came not from regret, from reflection. After years of silence, he was finally explaining why he never fought the rumors. I made a promise to her years ago, he said. One night, after another storm of stories, she looked exhausted and said, "Can we just not feed it anymore?" So I told her, "I'll stay quiet if you do. We'll protect what's real by not explaining it." And we did, for years. He smiled faintly. That promise kept our friendship alive. It kept us human in a world that tried to turn us into fiction. Then came the revelation no one expected. Sam shared that during one of their last press tours together, Caitriona had given him a handwritten letter. "I've never shared this before," he said softly. "But I keep it with me." He didn't read it all, but quoted one line: "No matter what the world says, you'll always be my person, the one who saw me when no one else did." The room went silent. Sam looked down, visibly moved. "That's what people never understood," he whispered. "It was never about scandal or secrecy. It was about protecting something sacred in a world that turns everything into noise." Reporters later called it one of the rawest moments of his career, a glimpse of a man who had spent years walking the fine line between truth and privacy. Days later, Caitriona responded with a single post: "Some bonds don't need labels, only respect." And just like that, the rumors faded. Not because people stopped caring, but because they finally understood. The silence had never been distance. It had been loyalty. In the weeks that followed, Sam seemed lighter. When fans mentioned Caitriona at conventions, he smiled and said, "We'll always have that story. And that's enough." During his final speech at the charity event, he left the audience with one last thought. "Fame teaches you to protect your heart," he said. "But sometimes you meet someone who makes you forget why you built those walls." He paused, smiling. Caitriona was that person. She reminded me that love doesn't always end, sometimes it just changes shape. He stepped off stage to a standing ovation, not for a revelation, but for honesty. For the first time in years, there were no secrets left, no stories to chase, only truth spoken softly. And as Sam walked away, the crowd's applause fading behind him, one couldn't help but wonder, was this truly the end of their story? Or just the quiet beginning of another one, written somewhere far beyond the cameras, where only the two of them would ever know the truth?